So I'm going to reread the final chapter of The Holy Man now that I've had some time to breathe and relax a little bit. Really like that last chapter and have a hard time reading it without tears. So I'll make another recording. Try to be less teary. So let's begin. Chapter 34 of The Holy Man, Joy. The pilgrims were gone. The trail began to heal, and in the hermitage Joe healed too. The second floor was closed off for the winter, and Joe made his home in the kitchen with the wood-burning stove. He pushed the long table against the wall and, having brought down his mattress from the bedroom, put it on top. He brought a table and straight-back chair from the common room and a comfortable armchair. The winter outhouse, built high for the snow, wasn't far from the kitchen door, and Joe had snowshoes. He was mortally tired. It had been a long summer, and seeing hundreds of people almost every day had taken it out of him, more so than in previous years, maybe because of his heart. He was happy to be alone and to replenish himself. But many years had passed since he'd been totally alone. He was in his 20s when he gave back his wife and daughter, and that was when he dropped out of the life he'd known. Then he began to roam the world in search of meaning. He was solitary until, in Cambodia, he found the right teacher and stayed with him for almost 10 years before coming here to build the hermitage, when it was the size of what was now the kitchen. Truly a hermit, he lived alone for some years until people began to seek him out. He'd been here 25 years. It was hard to believe. He felt he had accomplished something in that time. He hoped so. The winter weeks went by, then a month, then two. Joe began to feel a little lonely and useless. He was a teacher to the bone. It was hard to have no one to teach. He slept a lot and dreamed dreams. Sometimes he wondered if his waking moments were the dream, if it was summer really, and he was only dreaming that he was alone in the hermitage, surrounded by impenetrable snow. He would ask himself why he was alone, and he remembered that he wouldn't let any of the monks stay with him, nor had he chosen any pilgrims from the line. Then his mind would touch like a feather, oh, so fleetingly, on the one who had come and gone. Always Joe had carried his part of the hermitage load, taking his turn to cook, to sweep, or wash up, taking his turn to go to town for supplies. But the truth was the monks looked after him more than he realized, and cooking every day was different from cooking once a week. Rice, beans, or bread took nearly an hour to cook, and often, lost in his thoughts, he burned them. There were days when he contented himself with cups of tea or broth. So it was that no sooner had he rested and restored his strength from the rigors of the summer than he began to lose strength for lack of food and to grow light-headed, not realizing he wasn't eating enough. One day he set his heart pills down on the counter, later absent-mindedly moved a jar in front of them, and never saw them again. Living alone, the carved-in stone schedule of the hermitage was no longer in existence, and he often didn't know where in the day he was. Was it meditation time, or the hours for chores? Time to sleep, or had he just got up? Silent time presented no scheduling problems. That was constant. The snow, drifting high against the kitchen windows, added to his disorientation. He realized he must take himself in hand, care for himself, put order in his day, pay attention. He did so, and his mind became clear as a running stream. But then the roof of the storeroom collapsed under its weight of snow. Possibly this was the part of the new roof the poet Ed had worked on during his shirking period. Most of Joe's supplies were cut off. Now he needed to devote a part of each day to clearing away the fallen timbers and rubble to get at his food, a task beyond his current strength, but not beyond his will. On a late afternoon, during the tail end of a storm that had been wailing for several days, Joe was astonished to hear a knock on the door. Luckily, the kitchen was situated near the front door, or he never would have heard it. Still, he doubted his ears. Maybe it was a tree branch hitting the door from the wind. But he reminded himself there were no trees at this elevation, just boulders, and the wind could not move the boulders, only Kim could. But the rather light knocking continued. So he went to the door and opened it. Wonder of wonders, there stood a little boy about 5 years old. Because the snow came halfway up the door, he stood at eye level with Joe. Joe's first thought was that the spring thaw might have come to the town below, so the children had come up the mountain to look for him. But the towering drifts of snow and the large, wet, intricate flakes still falling belied that notion. "What miracle is this?" Joe asked in the language of the country. He lifted the boy down to the floor. "I've come to stay with you," said the boy in the little English of some British isle. My name is Jimmy." "Did you drop from the sky?" He laughed. "No, I was going to walk all the way, but I got tired, so Daddy carried me, and Jacob carried Daddy's pack. You see, Jacob came and got us." "Jacob?" wondered the holy man. "Hello, Joe. My name is Errol," said the boy's father, who now appeared at the door. He had bright, intelligent green eyes, black curly hair. The pack on his back, when unmuffled, revealed itself to be a small girl child, lying fast asleep in her cocoon of wraps. "And this is Melissa." Joe's heart filled with joy to think he would have children here on his mountain fastness, for it truly looked as if this family had come to stay. He knew not why, or how, or from whence. But it was the boy Joe kept looking at, because he felt he knew that dear face, those solemn eyes, the gentle smile. He was going to close the door and shepherd them to the warm kitchen when a large man appeared through the storm with an enormous pack on his back, and it was Jacob, the despondent legionnaire. But his was no longer the sad-eyed face of the grieving warrior. It was ruddy with health and good spirits and the joy of accomplishment. He took off his snowshoes, shook the snow from his coat, then stepped down into the hermitage. As Joe was about to greet him, he was distracted by yet another arrival, a slight figure who appeared at the top of the trail and struggled across the yard, buffeted by the wind. She came toward him through the snow, ran the last few steps, and flung herself into his arms. It was Anna. It was the one. The end. It's better, but can't hold back sometimes. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed these readings, and they're available. You can listen to them and watch them whenever you want, whenever you're lonely or whenever you need your daddy, to my sons, whenever you need your daddy to read you a story at bedtime, or to hear my voice, whether I'm still here or if I'm gone. I hope that these videos bring you joy.